What's going on, guys? Burner Sims, Georgia Tech fan account, Luke Cowart back here with another video discussing Georgia Tech and Virginia post-game thoughts. Sorry I'm a little late on this. I was going to make a video last week, but I was very frustrated. So I decided to take the weekend to regroup. And it's a new week, so wanted to look at it from more of an objective view. So I'll be talking about that, giving a little update on Jeff Sims. I know a lot of people already know what his status is, but we'll be giving an update on that. And then previewing the Georgia Tech Florida State game, and then kind of the quarterback situation moving forward. So starting off with the Georgia Tech Virginia game, very hard to watch. Let's just start off with that. Very, very difficult to watch, especially as a Georgia Tech fan. It was very frustrating to see the absolutely stellar play of the defense, minus a couple of blown plays, a couple of big plays. And you know, you're going to get that with a team like Virginia. They're not good. Their record is not good. And frankly, they're not a good football team. But they have fantastic athletes. I said this in the preview video. And I'll continue to say this all year, and most people would tell you the same thing. UVA has great athletes in Brennan Armstrong, Kateon Thompson, Dontavian Wicks, guys that are hard to bring down and guys that are very good at football. So you have to expect a couple of big plays and blown coverages. You know, that's just kind of happens in football. But overall, the defense played amazing. Got stops when they needed to get stops, forced turnovers. Really kept the crowd into it. The crowd wasn't really into it as much as they should have been, and attendance was abysmal. But they kept the crowd into it when they needed to, got the stops when they needed to, got a couple fourth down stops, huge turnovers. That pick six by Miles Brooks was the first time we've seen a pick six this season, and the first time we've seen a pick six in a while, I think. I don't know when the last one was exactly. I need one of y'all to help me out with that. But yeah, so defense was great. Offense was awful. As we all know, Sims left early in the second quarter with a lower body injury. It turned out to be his foot. Zach Gibson came in relief. A lot of the fan base has been wanting to bench Sims and play Zach Gibson because they were displeased with Jeff Sims. Well, here you go. You got what you wanted. Merry Christmas. This kid is not good. I'm not one to talk down on players. As most of you know, I was a player myself at the Division III level, but I don't like to talk down on any football player at all. But he just wasn't ready. I don't think the coaching staff was putting him in a good situation to try to win with the plays that were being called. The O-line wasn't really helping him out much. But he looked like a deer in headlights back there. A lot of people were saying all the sacks were on the O-line. It's not true. Gibson was spending too much time in the pocket. Did not ever really make an attempt to throw the ball away. He was taking sacks he didn't need to take. He wasn't going through his reads. And he couldn't even complete simple screen passes. I get it. Your first start, you're kind of thrust in there, not really expecting it. I get that he might have been scared, but that's not an excuse to play the way he played. 10 for 25 for 99 yards really doesn't even, that's kind of too generous for what we saw out of him. So best of luck to him moving forward. Obviously I want to see him improve. Everyone has bad performances, and he got a lot of flack from the fan base, including myself. So we'll just see how he can handle adversity and try to bounce back. That's all you can ask for. So, but his play was not there. The run game was not there. The O-line was not getting a push. Virginia's below average defensive line and below average linebackers were dominating the point of attack in the line of scrimmage all night, plugging the A gap and the B gaps. There was a couple of moments that C and D gaps were open, outside runs were open on both sides. Hassan got loose 2 or 3 times on the outside, but the inside run was not there at all. O-line was not getting a push. They didn't look inspired. And I really just think Sims going down kind of deflated the entire team, took the energy out of the stadium, especially after we saw Gibson on some drives and realized that the ball's really just not going to get moved. But in that situation, in my opinion, Brent Key said it in his post-game press conference, but as a football team, you really have to be able to, other positions have to be able to elevate their play when one of your best offensive players goes down or best defensive players goes down. In this case, it was offense. And it was the worst case scenario in your starting quarterback, a guy who is the field general. He goes down. O-line has to be able to elevate their play. Running backs have to elevate their play. Backup quarterback has to come in and at least be serviceable. Receivers have to elevate their play. They have to bail the backup out when he's not going to make accurate, really good throws. They have to make these catches. That's just what a team has to do to be able to win. And we didn't see that in any position group after Jeff went down. O-line played awful. They were not getting a push on the ball in the run game. They weren't protecting Zach Gibson as much as they needed to. Receivers had drops. We saw a crucial one from Malachi Carter and a couple more, one from EJ Jenkins, I think, and then one more from, I'm not 100% sure who else it was. But receivers were dropping balls. Olam's not playing well. Zach Gibson, obviously, we know he didn't play very well. And no one really seemed inspired to elevate their play after Sims goes down. So that's a problem. Hoping Key gets it cleaned up. But that's about all I want to say on the offense and defense in that game. Offense is going to have to improve. Sims or no Sims, offense is going to have to improve going forward if we want a chance in any game, not just the easier ones like Miami or Virginia Tech. In any game for the rest of the season, if we even want to put up a touchdown, we're going to have to improve vastly from what we saw on Thursday night. But moving forward, I want to address quickly what I've seen on Twitter. Brent Key is 2-1 now as an interim head coach. His starting quarterback went down, and he was put in a very difficult situation. Loses a game that we probably should have lost by a lot more than 7 points. And now the fan base is all of a sudden saying he was never the guy, calling for his head, all this stuff. When last week, right before the game, people were like, this is our guy. Like, this is going to be a Dabo situation. Brent Key's going to come in, win the job, and bring us back to greatness, blah, 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 this, that. I implore you to be patient. What we saw on Thursday was a horrible performance from not only most of our players, but it was not a great game from a coaching perspective either. With Brent Key, with Chip Long. Can't say anything about Andrew Thacker. Defense looked awesome, but from an offensive side of the ball, which Key is involved in, was not a good game. No coach is going to always coach a great game. The fact that the fan base is calling for Key's head after that performance is a little ridiculous. And I think that we should all be a little more patient. Now, if we continue to see these things, if we continue to see Key with his back up against the wall without a starting quarterback continue to go out and lay eggs like that, then yeah, I'm all for it. Get rid of him. We don't need him as head coach. But you can't completely flip the script after one game like that, especially when your defense played that hard and kept us in the game the entire game. Because do you think that a defense under Jeff Collins would have kept us in the game like that? No. Do you think a defense under 95% of coaches in America would have kept us in a game like that? No, because Key has inspired these kids. They're playing for a different purpose now, in my opinion. I'm not saying hire the guy. I'm just saying give him the rest of the season to see how it plays out. Stop calling for his head. You look goofy because you just have to see how it goes. Every game is different. And obviously Sims went down in this game. So there's not much you can do about that. And that's all I have to say on that. So moving forward to Jeff Sims, as a lot of you know, so he got a diagnosis maybe over the weekend or possibly this morning. I think it might have been from a doctor. So his foot is broken, but it's not broken in the sense that you're thinking of. It's most likely a hairline fracture or a stress fracture. There are 26 bones in the foot. He probably broke one or two of them. It happened in the Pitt game, but he continued to play, obviously, for the rest of that game. And he had some pain moving forward. It did get re-aggravated at times, like you saw at the end of the Duke game in overtime when he exited the game. That was the same injury. He's been playing on it, and he finally got that diagnosis. So the prognosis moving forward is what the doctor said, is that Sims, the injury really can't get any worse than what it is, which is why I'm assuming it's probably a stress fracture in one bone or a hairline. Just like a small break in the bone, not fully broken, obviously, or he probably wouldn't be able to walk. But the doctor said that at this point, whether Sims plays or not depends on his pain tolerance. So the injury is not going to get any worse. It's not really going to put him in any real danger to play, but it's a matter of, can he make it through a game? Can he even be effective? How bad's the pain? So that leaves the fan base and the coaches, I'm assuming, with a lot of questions moving forward with Sims and what he's going to do, what his decision's going to be. My prediction, my assumption, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think they'll roll with the starter being either Zach Gibson or the freshman Zach Pyron moving forward. I've heard Tyson, Clemson transfer, just is not ready. I think the only reason we got him from the portal is for depth purposes. So that's probably not going to happen. You won't see him. But Gibson or Pyron, I think you'll see. And then I think that if that goes poorly, which it most likely will, I think you'll see Sims try to come in and play. Whether he stays in the whole game, we don't know. But I can tell you one thing: there will not be any quarterback design runs, I'm sure, unless he obviously scrambles out of a pocket or something. But you're not going to see typical Jeff Sims runs, probably where he lowers his shoulder. You're going to see him slide if he does run. But he is a better passer. He's the best passer on our team. So that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think they'll start Sims because they do want to try to keep him healthy. And if they roll with another guy, or if they put Zach Gibson in the game and the run game is dominant and we don't need to pass that much, then that could be an option as well. But that's what I think we'll see. Do want to say that I first heard the news of Sims' injury from Bryce Kuhn. He runs a show that most of you know, on the Crowded Booth. Drops videos on YouTube about once a week, covering Georgia Tech football. Does great work. So that's where I got that info from, was him. So wanted to give credit where credit's due there. So go check out his videos for sure and give him a follow at Bryce_Kuhn on Twitter. But yeah, so that's an update on Sims. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with him and whether he plays. I've had a stress fracture before. It's pretty painful. It's pretty tough to play through, but I didn't play quarterback. So I don't think it'd be too much to ask to have Sims just back there throwing the football and maybe taking a sack when he needs to take a sack. But I think that would be a better option than rolling with Zach Gibson. Now, could Zach Pyron come in and provide a spark? Maybe. But the coaches also have to make a decision on whether they want to burn his red shirt this season or not, which would mean, playing in more than 4 games, appearing in more than four games. So interesting to see. A lot of question marks that none of us really have the answer to, and none of us will have the answer to until we roll on Saturday at noon. So hoping Sims gets in there, hoping he can handle some pain, give him a cortisone shot before the game, and maybe he can stand back there and deliver some strikes. His arms and shoulders are completely healthy. So that's what you need to throw a football. So maybe he'll get back there and be all right for the rest of the game, run when he needs to run, slide down when he needs to slide down, and maybe we'll be all right. So that's kind of that situation. Moving forward into Georgia Tech versus Florida State predictions and preview. I'm not going to spend too much time on this just because I don't really know what to say when I don't know who's going to be at quarterback. I will say, starting off, I think our only chance to win is if Sims gets any action. I think if Sims is sidelined the whole day, I don't think there's really any hope that we win this game. Florida State's a very good team. They have a dominant run game. They have a very big and physical O-line who establish dominance at the point of attack. There's going to be a lot of gaping holes that Charlie Thomas and AC Lee are going to have to fill in the A and B gaps. They have a great running back. Jordan Travis is their quarterback. He's thrown 11 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this year. He is vastly improved. He's definitely well over 1,000 yards as well. Might even be 1,500, I think, on the year. So he's fantastic. He's been playing great. They have playmakers at receiver. And it's going to be a tough matchup, not only for our defense to stop Florida State's offense, but for our offense, which has a lot of question marks right now. Going against a Florida State defense that's not great, not anything spectacular, but also not a pushover defense. I think this defense is better than Virginia's. So if we have the same offensive performance we had against Virginia, then all hope is probably pretty much lost. But it's going to be interesting. We opened up as 21.5-point dogs. So that's probably rightfully deserved after our performance on Thursday. But if we can get Sims in there and maybe he can come in, provide a spark, give us some magic, who knows what'll happen. We are still second place in the Coastal. Pitt lost to Louisville on the road on Saturday, which means that we are still second place in the Coastal. Will we win? Most likely not. UNC would have to lose twice, including to us. So that's probably pretty unlikely, but they have a backloaded schedule. They still play Wake Forest. They still play NC State. And Duke took them to a thriller and lost in the last second. So you never know in the ACC Coastal. We know this. So just wanted to provide some context there, maybe give fans a little something to hope for when there's not much. There's a lot of depression and pain after that performance on Thursday, but we are still second place in the Coastal, and there is still a legitimate path for us to get to the championship game, but we would have to probably win out. And Sims is not healthy, so that's looking very bleak. It's probably pretty doubtful that we make a bowl game at this point, but I think we should shoot for 5 wins at this point. So hoping the best for Sims. I think my score prediction, it goes along with my theory that Sims comes in the game and throws some balls around, isn't a threat on the ground. So I think Florida State keys on the pass. I think he obviously has a better performance than Zach Gibson would. But my final prediction is 31-10 Florida State, I think, takes this one. I think we lose a tough one on the road. I don't think we get dominated. I think our defense keeps us in the game for most of the game, but I think towards the end, when we see Sims isn't fully healthy and our offense can't stay on the field and we keep sending our defense out there, I think they eventually break a little bit towards the end and give up 31. It's a bleak prediction, but it is what it is. Our starting quarterback's hurt, and the program is at a really decisive point right now. Could we go in and win Saturday? Yeah, that's always a possibility. We didn't think we were going to beat Florida State in 2015 either, but we did on a blocked field goal, and it was awesome. And I was there, and I was also on the field, just in case anyone was wondering. But we'll see what happens. Keep the faith. Keep pulling on the Yellow Jackets. I'll always bleed gold, even after that abysmal performance on Thursday. And it sucks to lose to Virginia. I've never liked those guys. But there's still a path to a decently successful season for Georgia Tech standards, the last 4 years at least. So we'll see what happens. But that's my prediction. That's my update on Jeff Sims moving forward. And the next time I talk at you guys via video form will be post FSU game. So hopefully I'll be happy and we'll be coming off a win. But we'll just have to wait and see. So that's it for me. Luke here signing off from the Georgia Tech Pain account. Give me a follow on Twitter, interact with my Twitter. Hit me up in the replies, start conversations with me. I love interacting about Georgia Tech football. So have a great rest of your week. And as always, go Jackets and to hell with Georgia.